It's been over a decade since 70-year-old Stephanie Stewart vanished while working alone at a fire lookout tower in the forest of Alberta. Evidence points to foul play, but investigators remain baffled as to who claimed the tower to get her and why. In 2010, a couple was murdered just miles away. Are these cases connected, or is Stephanie's disappearance just as mysterious as it seems? Welcome to Without a Trace. I'm your host, Shalyn. Every file holds a mystery. Every story deserves to be heard. This is Stephanie's story. Stephanie Stewart was not your average little old lady. She's described as standing at 5 foot 2 inches tall, weighing 105 pounds, with blue eyes and chin-length gray hair. Despite her petite stature and age, those who knew Stephanie insist she was in good physical condition. The 70-year-old woman is remembered for her tremendous love for the outdoors. She once cycled solo across Canada and even climbed Africa's Mount Kilimanjaro in 2005. Stephanie spent her winters in Canmore, Alberta, and her summers near Hinton on the edge of Jasper National Park, where she worked as a seasonal fire spotter from April to September. She had been employed by Alberta's Sustainable Resource Development for 18 years, having spent the last 13 summers alone at the lookout tower. Stephanie's daughter, Lori, described her mother as a hell of a woman, saying she's very strong and very capable, and the tower life is her life. Stephanie lived on site in a cabin at the base of the lookout. Here, she tended to a large garden, embroidered, painted, and read. People could drive up there and look over the valley extending to the edge of the Rocky Mountains. In fact, Stephanie's tower was a popular tower, gathering many guests. The tower was just 3 miles off a major highway, and there were signs leading the way. Stephanie welcomed these visitors who came to her lookout. Her role as a fire spotter required her to spend a majority of her day in the tower. Each day, armed with binoculars and a radio, she climbed the ladder to her observation post, where she scanned for signs of smoke and routinely checked in with her supervisor. On August 25, 2006, around 9 p.m., she spoke with some of her family, then presumably went to bed. However, on the morning of August 26, 2006, Stephanie's coworkers became worried when she failed to call in the morning weather report. After several attempts to contact Stephanie went unanswered, a fellow employee was sent to the lookout to check on Stephanie. They immediately noticed her Dodge Ram pickup parked outside, but found her cabin empty. A pot of boiling water was left on the stove, and there was some blood on the stairs leading up to the cabin. Oddly, her bedding and gold watch were missing from her room. Worried coworkers alerted the authorities to Stephanie's disappearance around 9 a.m. that morning. A large-scale search operation was launched with search and rescue teams, including the underwater recovery team, combing the area. In fact, this was one of the largest searches ever in Alberta. Together, they covered hundreds of kilometers on foot, by boat, and from air, with no sign of Stephanie being found. Early on in the investigation, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police were able to rule out any hint of an animal attack or medical emergency. Stephanie was presumed dead, and her case is being investigated as a homicide. Stephanie's disappearance prompted the Providence to tighten their security measures at the 128 lookout towers. Self-defense training was added, and fire spotters now carry new two-way radios featuring a panic button. Lookouts that once had road access are now closed by locked gates, and signs that once pointed to popular lookout towers have since been taken down. 12 years later, in August 2018, Stephanie's case remained a mystery. Authorities hoped that fresh eyes and new technology could turn up new leads. A team of 100 people gathered to search the area, hoping to cover the nearly 20,000 acres over a 5-day period. Search and rescue official Mike Cook stated, quote, "There are no real new leads in this. It's something that we never let go. We'll continue this as we do many other searches in the province." Foul play is the common theory among authorities, with them believing Stephanie was abducted or killed by someone. Because of the boiling water, it is presumed she had a visitor early that morning or that a person or persons had spent the night with Stephanie. Officials believe the phone calls from Stephanie's coworkers spooked the assailant, and the supervisor who arrived on site that morning was not too far behind him. Or is it possible that Stephanie ran off to start a new life? This theory isn't the most probable, as her Dodge Ram truck was parked on site, and it's not likely that she would set off to start a new life on foot in the forest. However, the tower is approximately 3 miles off a major highway, and the lookout tower frequented visitors. Did Stephanie decide to run away with one of her visitors? But who would she have run away with, and why? Stephanie loved her life as a fire spotter. Some people believe Travis Vader murdered Stephanie. Travis, a drug addict with a history of arson, theft, and drug charges, is serving a life sentence for the murder of Lyle and Mary McCain, aged 78 and 77. The couple disappeared shortly after leaving their Edmonton area home in an RV for a camping trip to British Columbia in July 2010. Vader killed the McCains during a robbery west of Edmonton. He then disposed of their bodies in the woods and burnt their RV. The McCains' remains have never been found, and Vader was reportedly in the area of the lookout tower when Stephanie disappeared. To this date, Stephanie and the missing cabin items have never been found. Anyone with information on this incident is asked to contact Hinton RCMP at 780-865-2455 or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477. So, what do you think happened? Was this a random, unexplained murder in the wilderness, or did something else happen in the lookout tower in the forest of Alberta? Thank you for listening to Without a Trace with your host, Jolynn. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive into Stephanie's disappearance. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe and follow Without a Trace on social media. And join me next week as I dive into another case.